Okay, so if you're new to this channel or you're unfamiliar with whenever I review comic book adaptations or just any sort of overly geeky thing, I change my review style. Normally, if I review a normal movie, I just kind of give a plot summary and then my thoughts. In this case, because this is going to entail a lot of spoilers, I'm going to give my overall thoughts here at the beginning. There's going to be a break, and there's going to be a spoiler section, and then there's going to be a wrap-up. Okay, and on top of that, this is going to be even different from that in that the spoiler section is going to be very big. I shot it over a few weeks, basically. Basically 7 weeks. I wound up skipping a week there and had to do 2 episodes at once at one point. But other than that, yeah. So there'll be a break, then there'll be a big spoiler section, and then there'll be another break. It's pretty easy to tell where the breaks are. Okay, so my overall thoughts on WandaVision as a series, there's not going to be a season 2. It's going to be an A. It's a great series. Obviously, again, there's not really going to be they pretty much said there's not going to be a season 2. So it's just a miniseries to bridge the gap in between movies, which is what this does. And I think it does a really good job of repositioning Wanda Maximoff and her place in the Marvel Cinematic Universe. I don't know if it's necessarily the backdoor way that a lot of people have thought, but maybe to other characters making an appearance. There were references to things. I think, again, this wrapped up nicely. It definitely leaves the door open for what these new positions entail and the darker aspects that could come out of it. So, yeah, I think it does a really darn good job, and yeah, it gets an A. Okay, so the way the spoiler section is going to go is a little bit different. I'm going to be doing this over the next few weeks instead of, all at once in one video, basically, for lack of a better term. It'll still be out as one video. I'm not doing a weekly recap thing, but in reality, what I'm basically, like I said, I'm doing this just to kind of make sure my memory's a little bit fresher. I've just watched the episode, so I won't have to constantly bounce back and forth through my notes. It'll just be a way to streamline things. Okay, so anyway, episode 3, now in color, I think is what they titled this episode. Wanda is still pregnant. It appears to be 4 months, though it's really only been 12 hours. And it's, progressing rapidly to the point that after the doctor leaves, she's suddenly about 6 months pregnant. And Vision has already calculated she's probably going to give birth in about 3 days. And they don't know if it's, because it's a synthoid thing, or it's because of her powers, or what exactly is going on. And added to this, Wanda's powers do start going haywire, and finally she's about 9 months pregnant. It looks like she's finally starting to go into labor, and they need to catch the doctor because he's about to go on vacation to Bermuda. So Vision rushes out the door just as Wanda's friend Geraldine, who debuted in the previous episode as one of the housewives that she bonded with, even though Geraldine isn't married. And Geraldine comes over to look things over and discovers that Wanda's pregnant, especially after a live stork suddenly appears in the house. And it's about that time, too. I guess I never mentioned the ads in the previous episode. So, yeah, they've been, in keeping with the TV terms, they have had ad breaks with one ad playing throughout everything. So, the first time through, it was a Stark Industries turbo toaster or something like that. I can't remember the exact phrasing. The second one, it was Strucker band watches. Obviously, Stark Industries, that one is Strucker, referencing Baron von Strucker, who was, if you don't remember, he was in Age of Ultron for a bowl of cereal. So, yeah, he was in there, and they hyped him up as a big part, and then he was killed. Yeah. But he apparently is the one who gave Wanda her powers, Wanda and Pietro their powers, and then he was killed off pretty quickly. And then this time it was Hydra Soak, body soap with, one of those kind of commercials where the housewife mother is really haggard, her kids are going haywire, and then she takes a relaxing bath with the refreshing soap. Hydra soap. Anyway, as that's happening, Vision gets the doctor. Geraldine pieces together that Wanda's pregnant and realizes the baby's going to come before the doctor comes. She gives birth to one boy. The Vision comes with the doctor, and then Wanda gives birth to a second boy. Billy and Tommy are the names, the two names that Wanda and Vision were discussing throughout the whole thing. And as this is happening, Vision, was talking to the doctor. He's like, well, thanks for coming over. I'm sorry I interrupted your trip. Hopefully you can get off on it now. But he's like, I think I'm probably going to stay. After all, small towns are really hard to escape. And then suddenly the neighbors, Agnes, and I forget the other guy's name, unfortunately, they're acting kind of weird. And they're like, is Geraldine over there? You should know she's. And then suddenly, and in the house, Geraldine is with Wanda, and she mentions Pietro, both Wanda and Mitch, and then Geraldine lets slip that Pietro was killed by Ultron. And she's like, who are you? What are you doing? Who are you? Seriously, what's going on? And then suddenly Geraldine disappears. And then we see kind of outside Westview, the town, Geraldine is booted out and she's in military fatigues, and there's all these military people watching, and there's like this high-grade security fence around the place. This isn't a big spoiler because I think it's already been revealed that Geraldine is really Monica Rambeau. If you saw my review of the Avengers storyline Under Siege, Monica Rambeau was pretty prominent in that. She is the second Marvel individual to bear the name Captain Marvel. Let's just not get into that tangled mess, okay? But first she was, I can't remember the exact nature of her powers. I think they're microwave or photon based, because later she adopts the name Photon, and then she adopts another name. It's like Plasma or something like that. She's had multiple names throughout this. Monica Rambeau was also in Captain Marvel movie. She was the child of Carol's best friend in the Air Force. That's kind of continuing that. I will also point out that Jimmy Woo is supposed to appear. He appeared in Ant-Man and the Wasp. He's another character. I'll probably talk about him more when he pops up. So that's basically what happened there, and we'll see you in episode 4. Okay, so episode 4 basically picks up right as episode 3 ended with, sort of. It basically tells the whole backstory of what's been going on outside of WandaVision, for lack of a better term. Basically, it tells a lot of the story of Monica Rambeau and what happened with her, and then what's been going on outside of Westview. And this case, Monica Rambeau was blipped. 5 years ago, she was visiting her mother after cancer surgery. Her mother, Maria Rambeau, who was Carol Danvers' co-pilot back in Captain Marvel, as you recall. And Maria, like I said, had just gotten cancer surgery, and it had gone well. But then when she comes back, her mother is dead because the cancer came back 2 years after Maria left, and that was 3 years ago. So you get the idea now, okay? Yeah, and she's since been deceased for 3 years. And it turns out that Maria Rambeau founded the organization known as SWORD, which is a sister organization to S.H.I.E.L.D. It's usually concerned with extraterrestrial threats and outer space matters. However, because its forces were almost completely obliterated by the blip, they've had to switch to more terrestrial concerns. And it's here they get a call from the FBI asking for some expertise, because they were arrived at the town of Westfield, New Jersey, where Agent Jimmy Woo, I'll get more into him in just a sec, has his witness protection charge has mysteriously vanished. And it turns out that Westview doesn't exist. There is no Westview, New Jersey. There is an Eastview, New Jersey, but not Westview, New Jersey, apparently. And they discover this sort of energy field, and they send a drone in, and it vanishes. And then Monica starts poking around the field, and suddenly she gets sucked inside. And this is where she becomes Geraldine. And it's sort of discovered, as these other scientists are called in to investigate. One of them is Lewis, who's Kat Dennings' character from the Thor movies. And again, and she manages to hone in on this background radiation that's usually traced to the Big Bang Theory, but there's a TV signal inside it, and she has to use a CRT TV. And then they're watching it as a sitcom. And the first 3 episodes all take place over 24 hours. And so that's how this, again, how kind of crazy this all is, that it's moving so fast. But then they're watching it, she and Jimmy Woo. So, yeah, Jimmy Woo, you will probably know best cinematically as appearing in Ant-Man and the Wasp, where he was in charge of making sure Scott Lang didn't violate his probation or his house arrest. And from that, his origin in the comics is a little bit different. He is like a spy agent. He dates all the way back to the 1950s, where he took on a Fu Manchu character called the Yellow Claw. In a series, like I said, this goes way back. This is during an era that most people refer to as Atlas Comics, which that's a whole other story unto itself. But yeah, that's how far back the character of Jimmy Woo goes. So again, he's brought up. He's sort of this really nerdy guy in the modern times. So yeah. Anyway, Lewis is able to, and they show them using the radio to get back, and this is kind of what helps. And it turns out when you're pulled into this universe, your mind is not quite wiped, but sort of rejiggered, because it turns out they're able to find all of these missing person reports from New Jersey, and they're all residing in Westview. They're just people that got pulled into this thing. And they have not yet identified Agnes, though, so you don't. So the prevailing theory there is still in play. The Beekeeper is revealed to be another sword agent who wandered into the town. Like I said, as you pass through from the modern world into Westview, you change into period-appropriate clothing. So he was in like sort of a hazmat radiation suit, and when he walked through, it suddenly turned into a beekeeper's outfit. And the cable connecting him became one of those those old jump ropes. You know, they had like they had the rope that went through those little plastic covers that would be like, you know, red, white, red, white, red, white. So yeah, it goes through there. And it's here that we finally find out what exactly happened with Geraldine / Monica when she dropped the reference to Ultron and Pietro. And it's like, if you're watching the broadcast feed of WandaVision, you know, it's just kind of clips and then suddenly it's, you know, to the credits. However, what really happened is basically Wanda literally used her powers to kick Monica out, and it's sort of revealing that yes, Wanda is almost entirely behind this. She has made this world. She has basically forcibly coerced these people into being a part of it, and we're not entirely sure why. In fact, even after she kicks Monica out, she looks over to the Vision, and she actually sees his basically decaying corpse at this point. And it sort of snaps back, so again, we're not entirely sure as to what's going on there. But yeah, basically this is the whole background to the background, if you catch my drift. There was no funny ads in this one. You know, they didn't play the sitcom tropes. They just kind of played it as a normal episode, except after she's kicked out, again, Monica does explain that, yeah, it's Wanda, she's behind everything. So yeah, it doesn't appear to be entirely malicious. It's just you can see like something happens and it triggers her, and you know, she goes from being really nice to being, you know, really upset and just, no, I'm not dealing with this, you're not my friend, get out of here. And that's how that's playing out. So it is it's still pushing some seeds as to some interesting ways that this is going. I know obviously the Doctor Strange sequel is going to play even more into this, but yeah, the fact that they tied it into this cosmic radiation that Lewis specializes in, that traces back to like the Big Bang Theory or something. Yeah, it's like it's remnant radiation from the Big Bang, and you know, it's tied in with this TV broadcast signal, which of course makes it, you know, so again, it's like the universe is doing this somehow, and it's that Wanda is willing the universe to do it. So yeah, so again, this is taking an interesting turn. I do wonder how many more people are going. And it's even hinted at in the show too, because the two neighbors, Herb and Agnes. Herb is the friend. I just couldn't remember his name in the last episode. Again, if you remember in that part, they said, you know, they're talking like, "Hey, you don't understand. We're," and they're sort of, you know, tailing off because it's them sort of fighting Wanda's mind control. So yeah, again, we're getting some very interesting points, and it is taking a very dark turn. Okay, so this episode's actually a twofer because I had to watch episodes 5 and 6 back to back. So okay, we're doing both those at the same time here. The first episode 5 is a very special episode, as it's now the 80s, and we now get a replete new opening with it's a homage to like growing pains and family ties. Like there's the picture that's being the family photograph that's being painted in. There's the time lapse photography of the stars when they were aged and when they were kids and reaching adulthood. Even though Vision's never supposed to have had a childhood. And in it, the twins have just been born again. They're very young. Agnes shows up to help, and then suddenly they age to 5. They're 5-year-olds, and then later they find a dog and a puppy and bring it home. And they said, "Oh, you're probably too young. You should probably be about 10 before you start taking on the responsibility of a dog." And the twins age to 10, and they do it like right in front of Agnes. Wanda is using her powers in front of Agnes, and it's kind of getting to this point where Vision's like, "What are you doing? We're supposed to be keeping that a secret." And she's like, well, Wanda's like, I'm tired of it. I want to move on right now and do my own thing. And then at work, Vision is installing their new computer system, and they're getting email, or a very primitive email, and it turns out to be an email from Dr. Lewis. And and this is how Vision starts piecing things together. It's, hey, something's not on the up and up. And he uses his abilities to wipe one of his coworkers' minds, and it breaks Wanda's hold on him. And he suddenly realizes, like, oh, this is, something's really wrong. That she's messy. He knows that Wanda's messing with things, and he's not fully aware of the bigger picture, but you're starting to piece everything together. Meanwhile, as Wanda and the kids are dealing with the dog, turns out Sword has sort of been keeping tabs on her. The Sword director, Hayward, has labeled her a terrorist, though Monica Rambo objects to this. But then Hayward shows footage of the Sword facility where the Vision's corpse was being held, where Wanda basically just walked right in, threw everyone around, grabbed the Vision's remains and reanimated them. So it's like, hey, this is not good. Like, she might not necessarily be aware of her actions or what she's doing. I'm trying to think of the way to phrase this, but yeah, she might not be necessarily malicious, but she's not acting for the good of all humanity here. Something is wrong. And as this is happening in the sitcom world of WandaVision, the puppy goes missing, and unfortunately Agnes backs over it with her car, and the kids want Wanda to reanimate it, and she's trying to say, well, no, you can't do that. You can't bring back the dead, even though it seems the twins are aware that Vision was dead at one point. And added to that, like a little bit before that, Wanda was talking about, because the twins were fighting, and how, she talked a little bit about Pietro and how she misses him. And then when the Vision comes home and he's trying to comfort them over the dog and everything, he talks to Wanda alone. He says, hey, I know what you're doing. This isn't right. You need to stop. And then literally as this is happening, the credits are rolling on the episode. It's like, no, you can't do this. No, we're talking about this. And he says, you don't understand. I don't remember anything from before we moved to Westview. I don't know what's going on here. And so there's the relation. And there's the other thing that's happened. So yeah, Vision is that's also something from the comics too. If you remember, I mentioned in my Force Works review that the Vision at one point got confiscated by the U.S. government, who thought he was a weapon and wiped his memories and made him a total android, so he forgot his love of Wanda. They didn't go this far in that, but that's also where this seems to be going. And as this is happening, there's suddenly a ring at the door. Someone's at the door, and Wanda opens it up, and it's Pietro. But it's not Aaron Taylor Johnson. It's Evan Peters from the X-Men movies. We do not have enough time to get into that complicated mess. So yeah, just know it's a different Pietro. And even Lewis, who's watching this, is like, oh my God, she recast Pietro as that ended. And that leads into episode 6, which is the Halloween special. And now it's funny because, they went 80s, and you think, oh, they're going into the 90s on this one, but they actually do Malcolm in the Middle's opening, which is not exactly a 90s show. Like, I know some of it was filmed in 1999, but really Malcolm in the Middle is more of an early 2000 show. So they kind of skipped the 90s a little bit there. I guess because most 90s sitcoms weren't really family-oriented. They were more, young single urban professionals and stuff like that. Friends, Will and Grace, Frasier, not counting like driftovers from the 80s, like Full House, like lesser extent Family Matters, not counting like those sitcoms. So I think in a way maybe it was a bit more appropriate that they did that. As this is happening, like it's Halloween, and so they're all in costumes. You have Pietro donning something akin to his more normal Quicksilver attire, and Billy, Tommy is also dressed like him, and eventually the twins develop powers at this point. Billy, who's dressed like Doctor Strange, gets magic abilities, and Tommy gets super speed. Vision can't go trick-or-treating because he wants to go out on a neighborhood watch. At least that's his cover. In reality, he's kind of investigating things on his own and, again, piecing together more and more of what's going on. And, again, outside, Hayward basically relieves Wu, Rambo, and Lewis. So they start, but they're really going, but they are fired, but they don't really leave. And they're just trying to find another way to get back in, and they have to mask things. Basically, if they put something from today into there, it reverts to the period time. But if you take something from the period time and put it in there, it stays the same. And this turns out this is having an effect on Monica because when she went through the barrier twice, it rewrote part of her DNA as well. And so this is where her photon powers are going to be coming from, I guess. And basically, I forgot one thing in the previous episode, which is they sent Sword sent an 80s style drone in. Wanda got angry because it was armed, took it and threw it out, and yelled at them saying, "Hey, you just stay away. Just let me be. I'm happy here. I'm not hurting anyone." But the fact is, she's taken ordinary people and wiped their minds, so she's actually hurt a lot more than she's realized. And again, Monica wants to, handle things peacefully, but Hayward doesn't. And so this is all kind of going on the outside, and Vision is off on his own. And at one point, Pietro and Wanda are talking because even Wanda acknowledges, like, you're not my Pietro. You're different. You're not the same one. And he's like, well, you dropped your accent too, so what's going on there? Neither of them have their Sokovian accent, their Slavic accents, I guess would be the more precise term. And they're sort of talking a little bit back and forth. And, at one point, Wanda starts to kind of, he sort of says, like, look, I know what you're doing. I know what's going on. Just tell me what's happening. And she's talked about she was cold and lonely, and everyone she loved is basically gone. And she just started kind of reaching out and bringing people in. It sort of causes a little fluctuation in her abilities. And as this is happening, Vision talks to Agnes. He basically breaks Wanda's hold on her and realizes again, oh God, this is really hurting people. This is not good. I guess that kind of quashes any idea that this is Agnes is Agatha Harkness, though. A character from Wanda's past. I don't know if I mentioned it in any of the earlier segments, but yeah. She was Wanda's magic mentor, basically. So again, I don't know if that kind of quashes that theory or not, but basically Vision finds the barrier, he starts trying to work his way through, and he's coming out, and the barrier is causing him to fall apart because it really does not want to leave. He's starting to fight through, and Billy is able to sense this with his powers, and he tells Wanda, and Wanda snaps, and she just expands the barrier and winds up engulfing everyone, Hayward, Lewis, all Sword, except for Wu and Rambo, who I think are trying to smuggle their way back into Westview on their own accord because they need the proper era technology to do that. And so yeah, like it is getting way darker. Like even the funny commercial spoofs are darker. The first one was for Lagos paper towels, which is of course referencing Captain America: Civil War, where Wanda lost control of her powers and destroyed the Wakandan embassy by accident. And then the second one was Yo Magic Go, basically a Go-Gurt commercial. And it's a kid on who's stranded on an island. The shark shows up with the yogurt, gives it to him, but the kid can't open the little tab to get the peel-off sticker for the yogurt to open. And he winds up starving to death. So yeah, like I said, it's definitely taking a darker turn here. I do have to wonder where on earth this is going. I think at some point they're probably going to have to call in Doctor Strange. I don't know if that means we're getting a Benedict Cumberbatch appearance, but it's entirely possible. Okay, so episode 7 of WandaVision is Breaking the Fourth Wall, and the way it makes sense is we've now progressed into a modern-day, Modern Family-esque docu-comedy series. Is docu-comedy an actual term? Anyway, where people are sort of doing like this. You know, we have the humorous bit, but then the characters are stopping to talk to an unseen camera operator. And in this case, you know, Wanda's, you know, shook up from the last night. Vision still isn't there. The whole power expansion thing is throwing her off. She wants to just take some me time. Her powers are fluctuating in weird ways. Objects are sort of jumping through time periods. Like she pulls out a carton of almond milk, it just turns into a glass bottle of ordinary whole milk. The boy's video game turns into a GameCube, then into an Atari, and then into a game of Uno. And a couple other things happen. And also at this time, the Vision wakes up back in the bubble. He's at the circus, which is the portion of S.W.O.R.D. that Wanda absorbed, including Dr. Lewis. He frees Dr. Lewis from from Wanda's control. She explains everything to it. They try to begin working their way back to Wanda, but something keeps getting in the way. First they hit a malfunctioning stoplight, then they have to wait through the road crew to fix it, and then just as they're about to start again, a group of school children suddenly start crossing. And it's like, finally Vision just sort of flies off. Along the way, though, Lewis sort of explained the whole situation to him, including something else she found that she also managed to relay to Jimmy Woo and Monica Rambo before getting sucked in. And that was that S.W.O.R.D. had actually been working on trying to reactivate the Vision the whole time, and may have possibly also reactivated him before Wanda discovered him. Maybe that's why his memories are not entirely intact. So we have that, but she does also point out that Vision's love for Wanda is real. That's not pre-programmed or anything like that. So there's kind of this like glimmer of hope there. Like I said, outside, Monica Rambo is called in the Air Force to help. They managed to set up like kind of an entrance thing. The vehicle gets blocked, so Monica just runs through the barrier. And this kind of fully activates her powers. When she emerges, she has blue eyes. She runs to the Maximov Vision residence and, you know, confronts Wanda. Wanda tries to kick her out, but the powers are just negated, and it's then that Agnes steps in. Earlier in the day, Agnes promised to take the boys away for a while just to, you know, calm them, allow Wanda to steady her nerves and settle things in. Agnes comes to Wanda's aid again, pulls her away into the house, and Wanda wonders where the boys are, and she says, oh, they're in the basement. And she goes into the basement and finds this dark chamber with all this magic stuff going around, and it's revealed that, yes, indeed, unlike what I said in the previous segment, Agnes actually is the character of Agatha Harkness, who... And Agnes, or Agatha in this case, has in fact been behind pretty much all the shenanigans in WandaVision. The memory spaces, I hesitate to say she's behind the pregnancy too, but she's definitely the one who brought back the wrong Pietro. It's not exactly going to... I don't know how they're explaining why it's brought back as the wrong Pietro, and yes, in this case they are literally calling him the wrong Pietro. But yeah, so there's that too. The boys are now missing, and she's confronting this. As this is also happening, Monica approaches the Harkness house, finds a door into the cellar, and is confronted by a sort of slacker stoner version of Pietro. And that's kind of in the mid-credits scene. So, Yeah, I will say this too. There's one other funny bit. Our fake commercial this time was for the Nexus Pill, which helps uplift your reality, and that's also a reference to the comics. The Nexus of Realities is kind of like this dimensional thin barrier zone that's in the Florida Everglades that is protected by the swamp creature known as Man-Thing. Just roll with it on that. And as he's protected in this, it's also how Howard the Duck came from his planet to ours in the comics. So yeah, there's a little background information on that. Agatha Harkness in the comic is also a character from the comics. She's not a villainous character. She's actually Wanda's mentor who helped her control her chaos magic, which was later explained to be a reality warping ability, not actual magic. But still is sort of behind that. And one of the things that one of the stories this is based on, she kind of comes to help nurture the boys a little bit through their abilities. Though when it's revealed that the boys were, I guess maybe I need to also explain the twins. Because the Vision is a synthezoid, he can't actually, procreate normally. There are aspects I don't really want to get into because that's just Mallrats level territory obsession of character, if you catch my drift. But yeah, he can't obviously procreate. So somehow Wanda found herself pregnant, and it was just kind of this, maybe it's this mutant ability, maybe it's something on the magic. And it was revealed that they were sort of manifestations of her and a demon character called Mephisto. And Mephisto then kind of arrived and basically brought the twin boys back, though not really, because eventually Wanda brought them back, and that's another whole story together. But the trauma that kind of shocked Wanda, and Agatha Harkness had to be called in to wipe Wanda's memory of it. And I did a whole I talked a lot about the storyline of Avengers Disassembled, so that's kind of what played into that too. So, okay. But yeah, like I said, Agatha Harkness is usually depicted as a good character. Here she's being depicted more as a villain. Like I said, she is behind everything, and she willingly lied to Vision to throw him off last time and maybe try to get him to hook up with Sword again. But in reality, he's working with Dr. Lewis, and it seems that that's how that's going to play out. So, yep. Now, they said these things were supposed to be an hour long for the last 3, but this one was only 38 minutes. So maybe they only meant the last 2 are supposed to be an hour long. So we're going to see how that turns out next week. Okay, so the penultimate episode of WandaVision is basically another kind of recap show. It goes deeper into the character explorations and how we all got into this scenario. The last one obviously focused more on Monica Rambeau and Sword and everything there, and this one's definitely more on Wanda and what exactly is going on. We also get a little bit with Agatha as well. I mean, she's an ancient witch from the Salem witch trials in 1693. She was actually turned on by her coven for practicing magic that was above her standing. It was too dark, but she turned it on them and wound up absorbing all of their magic and killing them in the process, including her own mother. And she didn't feel power like that again until Wanda popped into the picture. And Wanda doesn't understand because she thinks she got her powers through the Infinity Stone. But they begin walking through Wanda's memories, and we learn little bits and pieces here. Like, the reason why we have this whole sitcom thing is because when Wanda was growing up, her father used sitcom DVD sets to teach her English, her and Pietro. And they just watched sitcoms to kind of escape the war-ravaged Sokovia. And then when the bombs attacked, when their hometown got bombed and their parents were killed, there was the unexploded bomb that fell in. It was not a dud bomb. In fact, Wanda managed to nullify it with her powers because she's had her powers the whole time. Basically, I think this is the way they're going to piggyback mutants into the Marvel Cinematic Universe. Later we see, like, she has this encounter with the Infinity Stone, and it basically augmented those powers and boosted them and made her fully aware of them, but she's still, not fully aware in the strictest sense. She gets the idea, she learns how to properly utilize them after the exposure, but yeah, the Infinity Stone didn't have anything to do with it, and we don't see it happening with Pietro at all either, so yeah. I'm guessing, this is where the mutants is coming from. And like I said, from there, we then jump to after Pietro's death. Her, again, through the whole time she's watching sitcoms, kind of escape the world because they give her comfort. And then we see her with the Avengers. She had just moved to America. She doesn't really know anyone. And that's how she starts bonding with the Vision, because he sits there and he watches the sitcoms with her. And that's how those two grow closer. And then after everything with Infinity War and Endgame, when she's back, she wants to basically get the Vision's body back so she can bury him. But the Sword reveal, Director Hayward at Sword reveals that he's disassembled the Vision, trying to figure out what make him work. But then he says, "But I think with your abilities, you could actually revive him." And she tries to, but fails. And she actually, so everything, that whole security cam footage we saw back in episode, I want to say it was episode 4, was it 5? That was just doctored footage. None of that is actually true. And we'll get to the big rub there. And from there, she goes to Westview because someone, I'm guessing Vision, bought property there for them to live in. And, they were supposed to build a home there. And, Westview's this economically distressed small town in New Jersey. And it's from there that she kind of snaps and then creates the whole, sitcom world and everything. And then that's how the Vision is revived. She did not steal the Vision's corpse, she just revived him. And in fact, Sword still has the Vision's corpse, and they use this piece of magic-infused ability to reanimate the Vision, and you see him now in his white form. This is the thing that was from the comics. If you're ever looking through old Avengers books and you see, like the Vision goes from the red face and the green and yellow costume to suddenly this like weird ghostly white form. That is where that comes from. And I actually touched on that in my ForceWorks review. He was confiscated by the government, disassembled, reassembled, and his memory was completely wiped. So when he was reactivated, he no longer maintained his love for Wanda, the Scarlet Witch, which I'll get to there too. And it's from this, and then the episode basically ends with Agatha holding the twins hostage and saying, "You don't understand. You're wielding magic that you're thought of as kind of a myth in the magic world. Somebody could just bend reality to their will like that. You wield chaos magic. You are the Scarlet Witch." So that's where everything comes from there. And overall, I guess as a character exploration episode, it's not bad. The funny thing is, this is maybe, I don't know how we could have done this any other way, but we don't see what happened to Monica, or Photon, or Spectrum, or whatever she's going to call herself. She's still in there dealing with Stoner Pietro. Or Pietro. She actually called. Agatha actually says, because she created Pietro. It was revealed she created Pietro in the last episode, and she calls him Fake Pietro because she didn't know the real one. So she just kind of cobbled together something that was just familiar enough to put Wanda off, as she said. So she called him Pietro, and so we don't know what happened there. Obviously, this is leading towards something. I don't know if Arcana, aka the Emma Caulfield character, or who everyone thinks the Emma Caulfield character is going to pop up or not, but it certainly looks like we're headed towards a big magic showdown, and then I'm guessing Doctor Strange, because this is supposed to lead into the Doctor Strange sequel, I'm guessing maybe Benedict Cumberbatch will pop up in the final episode. At least that's what I'm thinking. But I guess we're not going to find out until the next bit, so see you next week. Okay, so the finale of WandaVision, episode 9, basically, this really does work as the big wrap-up to everything. You have Agatha, who's basically using her absorbing magic to try to absorb the chaos magic and become even more powerful. Every time Wanda attacks her, that's what happens. We have the White Vision, I'm going to call it, that's the government-resurrected Vision, intervening on a few occasions, but then Wanda's Vision, I'll just call Vision, intercedes and the two Visions fight with each other. trying to figure everything out. And then added to that, there's even a third tier with Jimmy Woo working with the FBI to stop Sword. And then Monica Rambeau is in there as well. We'll get into that little revelation as that happens, but I'll try to play everything out as much as I can. Let's start off with the two visions. Again, the government resurrected Vision, we're going to call White Vision. The other Vision, we're just going to call Vision, okay? Like I said, White Vision's job is to kill the Vision, but as Vision points out, he's not the real Vision. I mean, the White Vision technically is the real one. He's the android who's capable of everything, and at one point, Vision manages to unlock the locked data of the lost memories of, White Vision. And so he realizes who he is and realizes what he's done and just sort of takes off, which is probably the one real drawback to the episode, is that doesn't seem to want to go anywhere, or where is that ever going, or where that will eventually entail. As this is happening, as I said, Agatha is absorbing Wanda's magic. You see Wanda kind of slowly aging throughout everything. At one point, Agatha frees the citizens of Westview from Wanda's mind control, and they just beg to be free because their lives were interrupted by all this. Because Wanda didn't have a handle on her powers and was still fighting it. And Wanda says, I'm sorry, apologizes. She tries to lower the barrier, but to do so would cause Vision and the twins to disappear because they can't exist without it. Because that's all Wanda's magic. But she does manage to get it enough so that those people can at least get to safety. It's at that point, though, that Sword comes charging in. And in the midst of that, though, Monica Rambeau comes to the aid of the twins, using her new powers to protect them from shots fired by the Sword agents. And then in the middle of all of that too, Darcy Lewis crashes the ice cream truck that she was driving in episode 7 into Hayward's vehicle, stopping him from harming anyone else, and the Sword agents all stand down after that. And from there we get back to Agatha and Wanda, and that's the main thrust of all of this. Like I said, Agatha basically is pointing out that it shows the Darkhold, the ancient book of magic, the prophecy of the Scarlet Witch, and shows that, yes, this is Wanda's ability, and the Scarlet Witch is fated to destroy the world. And as this is happening, she's basically, Wanda's trying to fight back, but it's just causing Agatha to absorb more and more magic. Finally, Wanda manages to trap Agatha in the memory of her killing her fellow witches, which happened at the beginning of episode 8. And that seems to work until the other witches resurrect and attack Wanda because, again, Scarlet Witch. And from all of this, Agatha reveals, you don't understand. You're not the good guy here. But if you just give me your power, I'll set everything straight. Everyone will be safe. No one will get hurt. And so Wanda basically tricks it and starts fighting back. And as this is happening, they start fighting all over near the barrier. And it turns out that Wanda was tricking Agatha each time this was happening. And she was carving the magic runes to basically allow only Wanda's magic to be performed inside the barrier. And then, so when Agatha suddenly summons up for a killing blow, it suddenly fizzles out. And that is how that nullifies everything, basically. There is a brief Doctor Strange mention, because again, when they're talking about how powerful the Scarlet Witch is, they say she's even more powerful than the Sorcerer Supreme. Or I think in the Ancient One, they said something in there too. Unfortunately, it was in the middle of taking a note, so I didn't quite get all of it. Sorry. And yeah, so afterwards, basically Wanda traps Agatha forever in the Agnes persona and says, "I'll come back to you if I need you." And so Agatha Harkness will, for her remaining days, be the nosy sitcom neighbor in a non-existent sitcom, basically. At that point, Wanda decides to permanently lower the barrier. She says goodbye to Vision and the twins. White Vision has disappeared at this point, unfortunately. Vision, I think, tries to explain that, hey, we'll see each other again. I think, the White Vision is still out there, maybe. So there's always a possibility for a reunion there. Wanda goes back into the town afterwards, tries to apologize to the people, but they're not really having it, though. Monica Rambeau does... Oh, you know what? I completely forgot. Pietro, the fake Pietro. It turns out that is Ralph Boehner. It was a wannabe actor that Agnes claimed was her husband through the early episodes of the show. Her husband's name was Ralph. So yeah, that's who she turned into Pietro. Agatha Harkness did. So that's where that came from. And Monica basically manages to break a magic necklace that had fake Pietro and the enchantment, and got his memories restored. So that's what happened there. I'm sorry about that. Yeah, like I said, Monica accepts the apology, but no one else does, and so Wanda basically books it up. When Wanda fully accepts her destiny as the Scarlet Witch, she gets the full kind of more appropriate Scarlet Witch regalia. At this point, she gets the crown around the head and the Romani type robes. Like I said, she flies off at that point to try to get a better hold on her powers, and I'll get to that when the post-credit sequence there. Yeah, sorry, we got emergency vehicles going by now. Anyway, and yeah, I guess let's just lead into the post-credit sequence, because there's two. There's a mid-credit scene where Monica is called into a theater for debriefing, but in reality, the FBI agent who called her in is a Skrull who was sent by Nick Fury to take her up to space, because that would probably be a better place for her. I don't know as to whether or not they know she has powers at this point, but I'm going to guess they do. They probably know that. And then after the credits, we see a small mountainside cabin, possibly in Sokovia, where you see what appears to be Wanda sitting on the porch, relaxing, but then she goes inside the cabin. We kind of pan through a little bit, and we see the Scarlet Witch reading the Darkhold, and in the background we hear constant cries of help and pleading, and just asking to be left alone. So obviously that's going to lead into the Doctor Strange sequel, Doctor Strange and the Multiverse of Madness, and how the Scarlet Witch is going to play out in that. So yeah, like I said, it's definitely positioned her to be a threat or possible ally, whatever that, however that may entail. So yeah, we got that to look forward to. Obviously, the next Marvel show is going to be, it keeps saying Captain America and Falcon for some reason. It's Falcon and Winter Soldier. It's Falcon and Winter Soldier, but I'll talk about that in the next little bit. So yeah, again, I think this did a really good job. Like, obviously the pop culture nods were really fun and everything, but to see how this whole big story kind of played out and everything, I think it worked really well. That's why I'm giving it an A.
Injustice makes him boil, evil makes him burn, and then Danny Ketch becomes the Ghost Rider. Flameglow Ghost Rider, blaze and vengeance, ride in the name of justice. With whip chains, hidden projectiles, and with flaming discs and a ghost fire gun, they destroy scum like Zarathos and Skinner. If evil makes you burn, ride with new Flameglow Ghost Rider, defender of the innocent. Cycles come with figures, other figures sold separately.
Okay, so yeah, the next Marvel series to pick up is going to be, I keep saying Captain America. Falcon and Winter Soldier. That's in a couple weeks. And then I guess in between that there might be a special bonus review. Hopefully I can squeeze that in. The next video is going to be the random trade review on Prez, the first teen president. And like I said, there'll probably be a bonus review in there somewhere. I know there's one I want to work on. And then, you know what, Mighty Ducks starts at the end of this month. I'll probably do that too. So see you all next time. Hey guys, remember, you can help support my channel at patreon.com/sleepytimeforcat productions, where you can help request a movie, even if it's something like, say, Sonic the Hedgehog or the next Purge film. I'll review it.